it's been a really interesting journey coming towards what we consider the most socially engaged recruitment agency. It's something we looked at starting last year. Really wanted to introduce our speakers before we get stuck in to the actual content. So, to my left, interestingly, for those of you playing at home, we have Clinton Holmes from Black Book Executive. Everybody. To my right and slightly in front of me, Jeanette Borg from Halcyon Knights. Welcome.
Hi.
And to my direct right, we have Peter Nobbett from Hayes.
Morning.
So, the point is that I really wanted to talk a bit about sort of how we came to the journey and talked about really how we decided and how we looked at the set that shows the winners. But I'll talk about that in a second. But let's talk about some of the content we were going to touch on today. Being an engaged staffing agency kind of sets up a number of different problems in compared to being a engaged a company which, for the whole part of it, doesn't deal with people 100% of the time. So we're going to touch on that. We're really going to give some advice and some tips about how you engage with your target audience, LinkedIn. I'm really going to talk about, from a recruiter level, how you can support your team in developing a great profile for the recruiters so they can build more effective relationships with their members and with their potential candidates and clients. I'll give you some very simple how-tos and whys on the marketing and how you build a simple content marketing strategy purely specifically for staffing agencies. So we built around 3 different areas of what we consider as social recruitment. And really, the first being the employment brand. Now, employment brand as a position measures the attractiveness of the recruitment brand in the market. Social selling index, or the social reach. This kind of brings down to the granular level of measuring the effectiveness of the recruiter. This is in managing their personal profile through to how they effectively engage with members or target members in their audience. So the content marketing influence, or the content marketing score. It really measures the brand influence on the platform. That is not just the content you post, but the extent in which the content is engaged by the members. So as to what social recruitment strategy or social selling is important, and we want to get in a position where you can start to market to people that matter, and by that I mean who's going to have an impact on your business. But the way that the trend is going in the world, you've got to think of a simple fact is by 2020 is that there's going to be over 50 billion connected devices in the hands of humans. So how we engage and how we communicate with our clients and our candidates and the people that we want to build a relationship with has changed and has to evolve. And that needs to start as soon as possible. Over to the experts in 2 seconds, but we really, just to put a definition, we built the awards around 3 categories. The agencies, or SMB, the enterprise agencies, we consider as people with 15 employees or above, and the global agencies. And we took announce, and as we did a few weeks back, the winners of the 3 different agencies were Books for the boutique agency, Halcyon for the enterprise agency, and Hayes for the global agency. And this, is based on the data that we took purely from Australia. So well done to the 3 of you. Congratulations to all of your companies. So, with no further ado, let's get into a bit more content. Let's hear from the experts. So I'm going to ask with you, Jeanette. So what prompted you from the enterprise perspective? What was key to you starting a social recruitment strategy?
It was, recognising the need to connect with an audience in a timely and a personal way. Our virtues are built upon the idea that we want to be a trusted advisor, a genuine advocate for our clients and candidates, and social media, LinkedIn specifically, enables us to build engagement based on trust, and that ties in nicely with who we want to be in this industry. We're a recruiter specialising in the IT sector, so it would be remiss of us not to be active on the likes of LinkedIn and social media in general. Okay.
From a global perspective, it's not without its different challenges, and there's a certain expectation that you should be this. What could you add in regards to building that social strategy from a global perspective?
For us, it was, I think, a decision that was probably after a groundswell of opinion from the the numerous number of consultants that we had, the users around the world that were on LinkedIn and using social media really meant that we had to start looking at it from a more corporate perspective. So what that gave us was the ability. I mean, we work hard to understand what our customers want, both from a client and candidate perspective. And I suppose for the social side, that there were ways of doing that, but they weren't necessarily particularly effective in engaging. So the ability that LinkedIn gave us to engage and provide people with the sort of things and the content that they wanted was a key part of that, and it formed a number of strategies, both from internal perspective and integrating LinkedIn capability into our business, but also giving the ability for our consultants at a corporate level to engage and put content out there was the key bit.
Okay. So then, obviously, in many ways, your business is quite new. It's not quite in its infancy, but it's certainly, you had the opportunity to start a business within the social sphere. I mean, tell us a bit more sort of how you started getting involved with this and what prompted you to get to start strategy this way.
Yeah, so Black Book started 4.5 years ago, and one of the first things we did was sign with LinkedIn, and the big reason for that was, when you're an agency, one of the key challenges is actually building that network and building a database and building and gaining access to information. So the first key for us was going on to LinkedIn and being able to have access to information, whether it be candidate, client, so that we could actually hit the ground running. And what that allowed us to do was actually start recruiting immediately and have access to a pool of candidates and clients, things like that. So it enabled us to hit the ground running faster than what we thought was possible, and so allowed us to start billing immediately. So it was a really key thing for us, and that's evolved over the journey. But first and foremost, it was imperative for us to hit the ground and get up and get them started.
Awesome. And staying with yourself, on the back of that, if we look at the two things you wanted of the company, I mean, you talked about accelerating your market position as fast as possible.
Yep.
And one of the things we actually write down as a key outcome that you wanted to accomplish from your social strategy.
Initially, it really was, having the opportunity to fill jobs to make some money initially, and it was also about building our brand. So being a new brand and wanting to position yourself in front of the people, it gives you the opportunity to get your brand in front of these people that might be looking for work or also looking to hire. So they were the key strategies, really, to put ourselves on the map and also to start actually having access to people to recruit.
In terms of marketing, obviously you have a marketing background. Recruitment these days is built between marketing and sales, and they are linked. I mean, from a marketing perspective and from a sales perspective, what did Halcyon want to accomplish in this situation?
Yeah, for us, it's not dissimilar to, I guess, what Clinton said. For us, it was initially about raising our profile in the tech sector and, having access to a network. But I guess we've evolved that quite significantly, it's now, I guess, about building trust with our audience, being credible, being seen as a thought leader in our space, in the tech recruitment space, and specifically, I guess, in that sort of exec market, and strengthening our position to that end. Also positioning ourselves as an employer of choice so that we are attracting the right people into our business, and we're really committed to being a culture and maintaining the culture that we have. So we are projecting that through LinkedIn. More recently, we've expanded out into the New Zealand market. So we've opened an office in New Zealand only in recent months. We opened an office in Canberra late last year. So it's driving brand awareness in those markets, and we've got further expansion plans to the Pacific region as well. So it's being able to reach beyond our front door, so to speak, with an ongoing focus on our audiences being candidate, clients, and prospective employees.
Okay. From this perspective, I know you've got some really key spots, some global sponsorship deals with people who help and support your brand extension. Taking that sponsorship deal or taking the global approach, what umbrella or the halo effect you find from key outcomes?
Going and looking at the outcomes that we tried to accomplish early on, we kind of knew that as a recruit, current vacant jobs they're always of interest to people that are looking for roles, but we felt that there was a sense that if you're considering a career change, then you want a trusted advisor and a partner who can to that premium and optimal opportunity. So we wanted to look at a longer term engagement strategy, and we realised it was going to take a little bit of time. We looked at a few ways of doing that. We've got the overall Hayes corporate page on LinkedIn with over 1.3 million followers on that, and what it meant was that we could look at longer term engagement without adding value, and that was really one of the key outcomes. You combine that with some of the other bits and pieces that you talk about, Guy, like the opportunity that we've got from a global partnership perspective, like to Manchester City and that sort of thing, gives us access to content that really, I think, does interest people. You can buy it as well with the fact that CEO Alistair Cox is one of the sort of original 150 influencers, and you end up with a pretty powerful image, I think.
Good. So, I mean, what we're doing today is really kind of the key takeaways here. It gives you, what prompts you to start a social recruiting strategy. Thinking about how to accelerate your market position, extend your reach and your access beyond what your local market is, and how to build that brand equity, how you look to raise your profile, either by the individual or by the whole entire recruitment company in a certain sector, and how to add value and keep that conversation going in between the times where the person's not necessarily looking for a job. I mean, would that be fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So we're looking at, we're typically branded as a company term, but brand is everybody individual. Everybody feeds up to a larger company brand. So from Jeanette, from your perspective, to get your employees to take on board this social selling, because obviously one of the things that was the social selling index, which is the effectiveness of the recruiter. So how do you get them to share and publish content themselves?
Key to them engaging in being active on LinkedIn and social media for us is a huge investment in training, and right from the outset, we recruit those who have a social media mindset, so that they're going to sort of come on board open to using it. But then right from the induction process, where we invest time in run through our brand values and how they relate, and how we use those to underpin all our social media strategies and marketing strategies in general, through to ongoing training and development. So, be that sessions that I run, or that, sessions that we offer our close ties, our LinkedIn account manager, who's been in working and partnering with us. And key to all of that is helping our staff to understand that they are brand ambassadors, that they are responsible for their personal brand, and we help them to develop that, and understanding the value that brings to their sales pipeline, that how it all comes together. So we also give them permission to have a voice and to freedom to use that voice, and I think that's really important too.
Okay. Even from a LinkedIn perspective, it's quite nerve-wracking to post and publish.
Yes.
I mean, I try a lot to do it on a regular basis, and even then it takes a fair amount of coaxing. I mean, what's your place to start? From a marketing guru's perspective, how do you get someone to put the first word down?
Well, I think our team, we're lucky. We've got quite a vocal group who who are quite articulate. They're funny, and that's where we start with them. We sat basically for them to connect with their audience, that they need to be authentic. So tapping into what they what they are doing day in, day out, but translating that into blog posts where they inject their personality and share their story. So we really encourage them to be storytellers in amongst being thought leaders in their space.
Good. Clinton, from, see, you don't get the benefit of having a marketing department as such.
Yep.
I mean, once again, it probably falls on the employee a lot more in your case. I mean, how do you ensure that the quality is there and they fall within realms of, not, you know, giving them some boundaries to work within, but how do you keep that personal nature?
Yeah, as I stated before, we have had LinkedIn as a key of what we do from day one. So when a new consultant starts with us, they go through formal training across the way Black Book about things, and part of that is actually around LinkedIn. So we're actually trying to train and develop day recruiters, and part of that is actually marketing. A big part of that is posting and sharing content on LinkedIn. So on top, we also have a calendar, so everybody's expected as days where they're sharing content, whether it be curated content or whether it be self-generated. So they'll put that together and they'll know the days that they're supposed to do that. But on top of that as well, we have strategy meetings around what's working and what's not working, and we'll do that every sort of 3 to 6 months. And involved in that, so we're a small enough tight-knit group of 9 consultants, so we all sit around and brainstorm what's working and what's not. So that actually allows everybody to be really bought into what's happening. And on top, as most recruiters are, they're very competitive, so we've created some internal competition. And so that's really driving it for us. And when you actually start on that path and you start to stick to it, I think it actually becomes second nature. And for a lot of our guys now, it's just part of their job. It's part of being a modern-day recruiter, and that's really probably helped us. But it's that training up front.
So I think from a global perspective where, you know, you have a large marketing asset that's driving a lot of content, that's driving a lot of engagement at a corporate level, how, you know, when you've got hundreds of recruiters on desk, how internally?
Good question. I think that there's happy with that guy.
Yeah, good.
First of all, just in case our marketing guys are listening, they're absolutely brilliant. We love everything they do. The challenge certainly for a big organisation like us is that control. Both Clinton and Jeanette have mentioned the training aspect, and I think we had to look very early about putting some policy and procedure in. That sounds maybe a little bit structured in media space, but that's absolutely critical to what it is. And you know, there's nothing necessarily new in recruiters having to be well networked. I mean, good recruiters do that, and they always have done that. What the media side of it and LinkedIn gives us is that ability to do it very quickly and very effectively. But at the time, there's another side to that coin, which is it can easily damage a brand quite quickly. So we looked at that, a number of streams to that. Obviously, from a global perspective, putting global content out. That global content is driven by our marketing guys in the or Australia, where we've got big marketing teams. But the content is very often or actually driven by the consultants or the management within the business. So, right, these are the trends that we're spotting. We need to put something out about that. Then it goes to regional levels, but a lot of it is driven by our consultants. And I made this comment that you know, recruiters tend not to be needed to ask twice to give comment on things. So part of it is actually about getting that control and the whole, you know, about common sense not actually being that common. There is that oft quoted line, which is, you know, don't do online what you wouldn't line. And I think some people probably need to remember that.
Yeah, very good advice. Some interesting points to take away here. I think realistically, everyone's touched on the fact that for a recruiter or an employee to share and publish, it's just a case of extending their normal day. The normal conversation they would have. They don't need to change their persona and suddenly become a chief publicist. It's really, if you wish your personal brand, just to have a conversation you'd have normally. I think it's the training and development or learning and development is probably key to giving people the confidence and the competence really to delivering, which is within what the guidelines of the company. You know, and I think from a company perspective and from the employee perspective, you know, all about the expectations of what you want the outcomes to be. If we're publishing to be as your market, just be mindful that inappropriate publishing will be as damaging as a good piece will be a benefit to the business. But yeah, I think it's a must these days for people to really make sure they're moving themselves away from the noise. So look about actual content. Especially engagement recruitment seems like a very content's a frightening word because it seems once again you should be an amazing wordsmith. Think about a brand or a corporate business or anybody who actually produces a company-wide piece. The whole thing for employees to do is to share that, and they use that to extend their reach. So, from a global perspective, Pete, talk to me a bit more about sort of how you find which content works for you, because you've got several verticals are all probably posting at the same time. So, what's the underlying things that you tend to look for?
Things are around, I suppose, the career advice and salary information is always something that gets good feedback. We often get quite good engagement. I mean, you mentioned about making it controversial, not the right word, but certainly putting thought-provoking things out there, and I think that tends to quite a lot of feedback and a lot of engagement, and that's what it's about. I think that again, you talk about the fact that we cover a lot of businesses and a lot of areas, and I think it really does come down to make sense for that particular audience, and understanding the audience and putting who your audience is, whether that's corporate or whether that's an individual, whether that's a specialist area, saying that's what people want to know in this particular space. Analytics around as well. You can there's some pretty powerful tools that LinkedIn give that give us to work out what is working. Format-wise, it's not as constantly sort of black and white. You can use obviously video content quite heavily, with long and short form infographics being really, really popular. So I think that ability that it gives you to be a bit more creative about what the content is really key as well. And then any blogs posted by individuals, I think really those posts really
brilliant. So Clinton, I've watched with glee your video, your stuff. Each individual reps down and talks. Each recruiter talks about what they do, what they specialise in. I mean, I really enjoy those, and I think they're brilliant. Sort of brought you to decision to do that because it's quite time intensive. But was that something off the audiences told you, or just tell us a bit more about how that came about?
It came about from probably, our strategies evolved every 6 months as we sit down, and I think we came to a point where we thought we're doing really well with thought-provoking, thought leadership type content, and we're doing quite well with some of the more career-driven stuff around salaries and things that Pete's talking about. But the bit we weren't doing was probably letting people inside Black Book and letting them understand a little bit more about us and what makes us tick and what makes us different. So I decided to put together a video series where every Friday, I find Friday's a pretty good day to post things that are a bit more social. We introduced a consultant and what they did and what they did outside of work and all that sort of stuff. Give people an insight into the real system, and that worked quite well. I think there's 3 types of content that we work on. One being specific thought and content to the audience, which needs to be tailored to the audience. So if it's engineering related, then only sending it to engineers, not sending it to everybody else. And then the second bit around career, so around salary, around what you do to what do's and don'ts and interviews and all that sort of stuff. But that can be broader across your whole network. And then the third piece is really that bit around who we are as Black Book, what we do, what makes us different, and all that sort of stuff. That's kind of what we're working at the moment, and that evolves. So that things that we do might not work, but really it's that ability to go back and look at your engagement scores and assess what's working, what's not.
Brilliant. So I know that you take scores very seriously.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you. So sort of from an analytical perspective, what contents work for you guys, especially in that tech.
Look, I guess we do use analytics quite seriously, to monitor how each bit of content we put out there perform for us. And we've evolved our strategy along the way accordingly. We understand who our audience is, both in a client, candidate, prospective employee, current employee realm. So I guess for each of those audiences, what works for us is slightly different. So we make sure that we're sort of talking to all of those audiences. So, thought leadership pieces, industry pieces, looking to our clients' achievements as well and some of the successes that they always work well for us as well. Not dissimilar to Pete and Clinton have spoken on in terms of, salary advice, career advice, etc. That's the best rating pieces for us have always been the ones where we're sharing information about our corporate culture, our internal culture. So, successes, wins, etc. that we might have, stories from our office. And we had a really great story come out of that, where we had recently our director of digital was approached by one of her clients and said, look, we just love the kind of culture that you guys have based on what they see online. We want to engage you to recruit in the same, to create the same culture, help us to create the same culture based on what we're seeing online. So that was that was indicative to us of the fact that, we are being authentic and projecting what we are as a business and not manufacturing who we are. We are in fact appealing to our client audience and our and we've been able to recruit like-minded individuals. So, that we, images, infographics, we all do it, and there's certain types of pieces that are going to work better for us, but it's usually the personalised pieces that work best for us.
Brilliant. I'm kind of writing down everything you guys are talking about, and I suppose to probably put this up a little bit is the advice is try and keep trying until you find a space which works for you, and and don't give up just because your first piece didn't work effectively, or your first conversation wasn't great. We'll give you the feedback you need. It's interesting that in recruiting we tend to measure every element of the role, yet we'll put in that when we start going online. So these are the ways to measure performance, and then you can work out what works and what doesn't. Let's think about how the members consume. So I think Pete used infographics. A very simple way to get a simple message across. Typically, they're consuming data on the go, on their telephones. So think about how the conversations you're having, how they're going to be seen and how they're going to be used. I think you talked about targeting the message. Who needs this piece and why? Think where it's going to land and what that message is that you really want to do. But extending that normal relationship to the online platform. I think everybody's talked about having a level of business intimacy, letting people in behind closed doors. We talk about LinkedIn. There's several different ways to do this, but we tend to talk about sort of the old third. So a third time you're talking about the company and the jobs and the opportunities, and a third time you're talking about market information or what's happening in your space, and another time you're talking about what's personal and what's happening behind back doors of the recruitment company. But we also know as a recruiter, they want to work for a company that's exciting, that has a great culture and knows how to demonstrate and how to explain that. So does anybody want to add anything to that before we move on? Only because we're running out of...
Yeah, I think the key part as well is that it doesn't necessarily always have to be self-generated content. If you're a consultant, you can engage through social media with content, and that's all a key part of it. The whole point of networking is it's got to be a two-way street. It's a mutual thing, and that ability to go in and what other people are doing in your industry or whatever that might be is, it sounds pretty obvious a lot of the time, but it's not always about our message. It's got to be sometimes about how we interact with other people's messages and what our thoughts are on that. And I think consultants get a bit worried about that type of thing and how they engage. That training comes into it, of course, but there shouldn't be a concern about doing that. And I think that mutual and being honest as well.
Yeah.
The honestness. Is that a word?
Yeah.
No.
Honestness.
Honest. So you
more honest. Yeah, so you're right. So don't get on the fence. Yeah. You're going to comment, have an opinion. Yeah? Okay. Okay. So we've got three of one, their agency category sitting in front of us here. And whilst I probably won't give us secrets of your broader strategy, I'm interested to know, so there's two sides of this, marketing and there's social engagement and content marketing to become a recruiter of choice for your clients. I want to look at this as a recruiter of choice for potential recruitment companies themselves, recruitment consultants themselves. So, I mean, sort of how do you think that this social selling, this evolution around social selling has, you were a house name, you were a house brand anyway, how has helped you accelerate to be more of a recruiter of choice?
It's given our guys a little bit more transparency and visibility at what it is we do. I think that, everyone kind of thinks they know what it is that HAY stands for, and the ability that our consultants and our corporate guys have to be able to take the core brand values that we have and really sort of put them in a much more personal way. That's been a key thing. We've worked hard, obviously, to build up followers, and as I said, Ron, having 1.3 million followers globally gives us great access to people and get information out there. I think that's the ability that we then have to engage with those people. We know, for example, that our followers are 3 times more likely to apply for a job we've got advertised if they weren't a follower. So that sense of, right, work hard to get those followers and then applying for work, rather than get them applying for work and then following is a little bit of a sort of way around, would be the way you would think about it originally, but actually that is the right way to do it. So that's what it's given us.
I think it's being able to, in a vision and narrative context, storytell. It provides us with a platform for us to project our brand, which is unlike traditional marketing channels of old, where you were a brand blasting an audience. Whereas I think LinkedIn enables us to have consultants represent our brands on an individual level and be those brand ambassadors that we spoke about earlier. They are the face of our business, and we are more than just the Halcyon Knights name, and ultimately our clients, candidates have a relationship with our consultants, so them being an extension of our brand, of the representative of our brand, that's how we've been able to earn ourselves as a recruiter of choice.
Position.
For us, it's been about being such a specialist in key areas. We've really worked hard at owning conversations and owning those conversations in those specialised areas. What it means is people may want to utilise our services, see some of that thought-leading content in those specialised areas, and they might not decide to use us right then and there. Most of the time they won't, but it's weeks or months down the track when they do have an opportunity or they're looking for a role, they remember us as thought leaders in those areas because we're owning those conversations. And we had a lot. Over the last probably 12 months, we've noticed we have a lot more direct applicants and actually clients calling us directly about opportunities than we previously had. And I think that is also back to the consultants. So each of our consultants owns a space and owns a conversation and are building not only the Black Book brand, but they're building their own personal brand as a consultant. Yeah. And so when they say, I've got this opportunity in this particular space, they know immediately who to talk to, because we're also doing it on a regular basis and we're always top of mind. So that did work well for us, and I think that's probably what's established us as a recruiter of choice in our specialised areas.
Okay. So you're right in both on aspects of looking for recruiters and obviously looking for clients, and also establishing yourself a recruiter of choice for repeat business within your candidates as well. That brand recognition or logo recognition is key. Being top of mind is something which can fall down the agenda, or has to constantly push it forward. If you're thinking about being seen, recognised as a specialist in your niche area, it seems saying that this gives you social, gives you the opportunity to really continuously tell stories about, recruiters love telling a good story, but also really allows the transparency and visibility that your clients and candidates and potential recruiters can learn more and more about you. And the fact is that by having a plan and a schedule, both at the recruiter level and at the client level, it seems that you got to back up your views or your culture by actions. You know, so that's a really interesting point how things have changed. Let's just take some key takeaways from today. And I'm just conscious of the time, and we've had a few questions coming through. As this is something we've talked about, as told the experts, you know, we talk about communicating with audiences that matter. You need to shout from the rooftops to everybody, because not everybody's going to be relevant at the time. You know, focus on certain channels. You know, typically I'm talking about LinkedIn today, but your audiences may be elsewhere, and these rules and principles apply. You know, it necessarily have to be about a financial ROI. You talk about being socially engaged generates a halo effect for your brand. You know, everybody's mentioned top of mind. Everyone mentioned you know, a brand within the market purely based on recognition of their logo. But also, and now when people talk business, you get letting them to do the marketing for you. Several points here about a core message. You know, I think it's really important that talking about the relevant information which is relevant to your target audiences or the message that you want to send forward. So what it is what your core business is essential to sending out a clear and concise message. And you know, everyone's touched on the fact is that you don't post just for the sake of it. You know, it's noise. You know, it's about having quality conversations. You know, just talked about measuring success by building a community of relevant followers. You know, and if we're thinking about everyone in this room has a really, really large follower base, and if you think about every time these people send a message, the person who's following a company is 3 times more likely to respond to them or to a call to action. Without a follow, a like, or an apply, it becomes a key metric to success around social engagement. Is there anything else you guys want to add to the key takeaways before we start looking at some questions? So some questions come in from the group. Let's have a good look here. Okay. Questions coming in. This is good. So I'm going to fire this one at you, Jeanette. So our marketing team creates a lot of content each month, but a sales team never uses it. How the problem is solved? What's your some bullet points there as to how that?
I think it is.
I don't want to be divided between sales and marketing here, but
No. We're all on the same team, and that's what you spoke to you. I think that is a big challenge because we all know that recruiters are really busy people. Time is money, and they're constantly applying to their clients, their candidates. As I said earlier, understand the value of how content translates back to the pipeline, how it helps to build that long-term trust in personal brand as part of the bigger brand. That's just a constant thing that I'm certainly trying to share with my team. As an example, this morning I read an article because I had a question from one of my colleagues yesterday about how do this is all this social media, but how does it translate to ROI? And it's a really challenging to answer because it's always really highly transparent how that works. An article actually this morning which I shared with the whole team to say, here's an article on the cost of not being socially engaged. What are some of the missed opportunities? How does it, so I hope that sort of helps to highlight, to them. It's just that regular reminder to them that, by not being engaged, by not interacting with posts and building conversation, creating conversation, responding to comments that our audience are posting on LinkedIn and social media in general, they are losing opportunities.
Okay.
So does that answer the question?
It does. There's a question coming in here, which I'll direct at you, Clinton. It says, we're struggling to get our social media pages off the ground. What are some of the ways we're going to build a follower base? Everybody's ready to plug in for another round. Here we go. Settle in.
Well, first and foremost, you need to all sit around and come up with a strategy that everybody's bought into. because everybody needs to be on the same page. There needs to be a calendar around who's doing what and when, because it can be very time consuming. And then stick to it. And probably initially you probably need to go back every month and measure and analyze what's working, what's not, and then redefine and recalibrate what you're doing. You also need to make sure that every touch point socially is aligned. So whether it be your consultant page and your company page, and then as well as whether on any other social platforms, that there's a link there. And then regular content. It needs to be thought-provoking, it needs to be engaging, and to be a little bit about you as well. But you really do need to develop that strategy and then stick to it, analyse it, modify it, and then carry on. And that's really how we went about it. And it'll take time. You won't be over the world immediately, but it'll take time.
I've got a lot of other questions, which I'm probably going to ask our panel to. I'm very conscious of time. I was asked the panel to answer, such as there's a number of tools available through the LinkedIn platform. How many in particular that are more effective than the rest? I think you'll get a broad range of answers there, so I think we'll take that one offline and send the answer out. So when you're creating content, what are your favourite sources? So if sharing stuff is written by others, I mean your advice offline as to some shots there. And also, what's one mistake your recruitment or sales team on their LinkedIn journey? I mean, that's a great opportunity for some very fast learning. So we'll talk about this offline, and I'll include that in the links that get sent out to anybody else. So from here, please take time when you get the win tomorrow. Please tell a success story, because it really does give you some real indicators as to how you can take a huge step forward in being a socially engaged recruiter. Take a look at the people who are on the list of top agencies, because you will see a lot of commonality around how they approach the market, how they manage their brand, how they share their successes. Feel free, everybody on LinkedIn. It's all about networking, and we want to benefit the people who have joined us today. And also, feel free to click the button there as you come through about contacting us, and you can talk to one of the team here about how to take your first steps. I really want to say thank you to Clinton and to Pete for taking the time out today, and congratulations again. It's a huge achievement. It's the first of its kind. It's something we're going to do more and more of. And fingers crossed for this year, and hopefully we'll see all three of you back again next year.
Thank
you.
Very
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.